I'm Jurjen. I run the commercial side of MHHS for Stark, and I've been with Stark for 8 years.
I'm Nina, head of the TPI team, Enterprise Accounts. I've been at Stark for 6.5 years.
Working with us, we are a very reliable partner, and we've been doing this for over decades now. We have our in-house installation team. We develop everything in-house. We own it. It's all onshore. It's nothing offshore. It's all based in the UK. And we are very good at managing small and large projects, where an installation rollout is agreed with the customer. We'll hold your hand through it and we'll communicate really well. If you are a TPI and if you recommend a third party to your customer, you want to have the confidence that they do a good job, and that you score brownie points with your customer, not the other way around. So that's one thing where you want to make sure that you work with a reliable partner like us. Secondly, there are additional services that you could offer to your customers, whether that be flexible tariffs, load switching, or energy management. You can only do that if you have AMR in situ. We will always recommend AMR for the reasons I just mentioned. Now, from a TPI perspective, I also think there are opportunities for you and your customers, and the one for your customer might be reducing carbon, reducing cost, etc. But I think the market will change a little bit as well. There are so many. If we look at B2B, but even in the domestic world, things are changing. And one of the things that will change quite a lot, I think, is around tariffs. You'll have a lot of time of use tariffs that will come in situ, and you'll see that more and more. And that will open opportunities for everybody who has an AMR in situ, where they can, for example, use electricity cheaper on a Sunday afternoon than it is Monday evening at 4 or 5 o'clock. And you will see that more and more for businesses, but also for domestic. There's already companies advertising on TV that if you have a SMETS or an AMR meter, you can benefit from some of those incentives. So energy suppliers and TPIs, they will get more opportunities to make use of incentives that suppliers will put out there, as long as you have an AMR meter in situ.
We get quite a lot of differing opinions from our TPIs, but from what they're hearing in the industry. So a lot of information that we are hearing about, suppliers are suggesting SMETS meters to end customers via their TPIs. I've had a couple of instances where we've come up against that argument, why AMR versus SMETS. We also hear that, some suppliers / other entities are saying, it's not going to be ready, it's not going to happen yet, don't worry. But we obviously know that isn't the case. So we're trying to obviously get everyone as ready as we possibly can.
I think there's a bit of misinformation as well, and I don't use that word lightly, but yes, it's from people seem to think they can opt in or opt out, like you can with SMETS, for example, because there you can opt in and opt out. With MHHS, you're in. There is no option. Everyone is in. And I think the industry maybe hasn't helped itself in the past few decades with certain initiatives that actually were delayed. Whether that be P272 or whether that was a smart meter rollout. This is not about rolling out 30 million meters. This is about settling the energy half-hourly in the background between suppliers and generators. Now, as a side effect, you will very likely see that in the next 5 to 10 years, many businesses and households will switch to AMR or SMETS, because there will be incentives available for all of us who use electricity to make that switch. That's how we look at it, and that's how suppliers will look at it as well. One could argue that there are actually close to penalties in place, or will be in place, for customers who do not have AMR or SMETS in situ. Especially if they're high consumers, you will see suppliers, the way they deal with settlement and with generators, it's all about risk. If you have an easy, predictable profile of energy consumption on your sites that collects data on a daily basis, so you can track it, and they know what's happening, it's a very low risk for them. If that is not the case and there is no data available, it's high risk. And the way they deal with that is they put that risk element in the kilowatt hour price that they will charge you. So you already see some suppliers offering let's say, lower kilowatt hour rates to customers with very good data quality, or they give a customer a couple of months time to put AMR or SMETS in situ, and if they don't, the kilowatt hour price will go up with 8% or 10%. There was an interesting article yesterday which I'm sure we can find the link somewhere and then say the link. But I reposted it. I reposted it on LinkedIn, so have a look at it. And it talks about how many customers are paying close to 10% too much because of the lack of accurate data and suppliers de-risking that element. Suppliers like something that is predictable from a usage perspective, and it's also measured from a usage perspective on a daily, half-hourly basis. Yeah, people ask you, do I need a new meter, for example? You get that asked an awful lot, and no, you don't. Well, it depends a little bit. If you have an AMR meter or a half-hourly meter or a SMATS meter in situ, no, you don't need a new meter. If your meter is traditional, as the industry calls it, it basically means there's no communication in the meter at all, and all that happens is a man or a lady in a van comes around once a year and reads your meter manually. You will eventually definitely be offered a SMATS meter or an AMR meter. But yes, so you don't need a new meter. That's a little bit of a misconception. Most things will happen behind the scenes. They'll happen remotely by companies like us. I think for TPIs, although change can be daunting, if you engage well, and you can do that with us, for example, and prepare well, whether that is internally within your TPI and with your customers, and ideally have one agent for MOP and DC services right now, this is also an opportunity. And if people start to look at change and be able to make that into an opportunity for the TPI itself, but also for the customer, you change the whole perspective. And there are many opportunities here from a carbon reduction perspective, but also from a cost saving perspective, and also from an, let's say, additional services perspective that TPIs can offer to their customers. Having access to half-hourly data on a day-plus-one basis will absolutely unlock flexible tariffs, load switching, and a focus on energy management to reduce carbon and reduce costs.
First and foremost, most importantly, to understand their portfolio, their customers' portfolios. How many traditional meters do they have? How many non-half-hourlies do they have? We're working with TPIs now to get ahead of the curve and look to exchange all their traditional meters now, because we'll be exchanging them to non-half-hourlies now, and then they're ready to transition through to half-hourly.
I completely agree with that, and I would call that prepare.
Consolidate your portfolio to one agent, so having your MOP currently and your data collection currently with the same provider. So with us, we have our in-house MOP team. That enables us to then obviously get better at going out, fixing faults, identifying faults more easily, which will ultimately get your portfolio back up to speed.
Yeah, I think engagement is also, or engagement and education, actually, they're both absolutely crucial. And don't take it for granted. I mean, TPIs know the energy industry very, very well, especially from a procurement perspective, but also certain other elements of it. And I think they have a big role to play to educate their customers, but also to sort of consult their customers or to negotiate with suppliers on behalf of their customers, which is what they do already. But I think there are some difficult questions to be asked as well by a TPI to certain suppliers or to the industry and to all agents, as in, how are you preparing for MHHS, Mr. Supplier or Mr. Agent? And I think they have a crucial role to protect their customers, to make sure that the migration goes as smooth as possible for their customers. To do that, they need to ask some difficult questions, and they need to make sure they partner with the right company when it comes to MOP and DCs. And I think it goes back a little bit to the one I mentioned earlier, and I think it's important. Nina mentions having your MOP and DC with one company, and that avoids finger pointing, as in, I'm trying to collect data, but the meter isn't working. So you know what, if I'm the MOP and the DC, it's my responsibility to go to site to fix the meter and make sure the communication is working. So we deliver day-plus-one data, half-hourly, to all our customers and to the TPI. I think a second part is that because there are more and more AMR meters in situ, and even SMATS meters, I think it's important to understand how many different meters there are, or meter types there are. And we at Stark, we are very good at developing our own technology where we own the IP, so we're always in control. And we are one of the very few companies that can dial remotely all meters. So we've developed all protocols for all meters. And there are very, very few companies in the country that can do that. And I think that will become more important, because if you have an estate of, let's say, 100 sites with 5 different meter types, we are the only one that, and I can guarantee you this, that can dial all meters, because we've developed and own the IP and all the protocols, so we can remotely access that meter and collect the data.
So one of the key activities that is going to happen is that every single MPAN is going to be de-appointed. So we need our TPIs to work with us, whether they've got a direct contract in place, whether it's nomination, to support us in getting that reappointment from the supplier, to ensure that the customer isn't losing data, just to ensure that, their data continues and that the data quality is high.
I think there are many risks, and one is definitely reputational risk to the TPI. In the end, your customer is going to look at you and they expect, I think rightfully so, your advice on how to go through migration. And if you do not do anything, it is not impossible that post-migration we will not be reappointed to collect data or beat them up for that MPAN. And that could mean that you as a TPI and your customer are not getting any data. That could mean that you cannot check bills or procure the energy the way you contractually agreed with your customer. And that can have enormous reputational risk for you and could end up with very unhappy customers. This is a great opportunity for every supplier, for every TPI, for every agent like us to be different than the rest and to be better than the rest. And I think if you're going to, like in any market, if you're going to sit still and do nothing, the competition will catch you. So you have to act now, and I think you have to engage with your customers, educate yourself and educate your customers. Now, the supplier is actually in charge of when the MPANs or your MPANs migrate. But it doesn't mean that suppliers won't liaise with big customers or with you, Mr. TPI, or with the TPI. So they will definitely liaise with us. But what will happen is that all agents, we will all get de-appointed for all MPANs in the what we call old world, and then we'll get reappointed in the new world. And suppliers will liaise with us heavily, and we will communicate as much as we can with yourself, and then you can do that with your customers as well. But suppliers decide when it happens.
The most important activity that we've been doing as a business is we've been going to all of our TPIs. We have been giving them an overview of our stance on MHHS, how we're approaching it. We're also supporting them in speaking with their end customers, because we understand that it's a lot to get your head around, and end customers, they won't necessarily understand it at all. So we are actively supporting our TPIs in their meetings with their end customers to ensure that the message gets across and that they feel fully supported, when they're going to be due to transition across.
But I think the main message that we're trying to get out to TPIs is, as Nina said, is education, is preparation and is engagement. And we start with the TPI, and then we work with the TPI and help and facilitate them as much as possible to deliver that service to their customers as well. So again, preparation, education and engagement. And that could be via marketing material that we make for them. It could be via webinars that they host and where we help them. It could be via customer meetings that they set up, where we explain what it is and what's happening and when it will happen. So there is a lot of knowledge and resource available within Stark that if you are a TPI, that is there to help you. But that's completely up to you as a TPI, which elements you want to sort of use of that. Whether that be a webinar, whether it's a link to a website, whether it's meetings, anything is possible. There already is a shortage on the market when it comes to engineers, when it comes to meters, and when it comes to everything. That isn't going to disappear. Now, we are in a great place because we do everything in-house. We have our own teams, our own meter readers, our own installers, very good procurement lines, and we can work with all meters, as I said before. So we are in a very good place to be top of the table.
We do also have multiple routes to market as well. So customers can have a direct contract. We can do it through a nomination process. So a customer may not have budget now, but they can have budget that feeds through on their customer bills, for example. So, there are options available to all customers. You can do non-half-hourly nomination. So we can install AMR meters and provide day+1 data, and we will bill the supplier, who will then bill the customer through their standing charge. So obviously that's spread over the year. So it could be a more cost-effective way for a customer to get their estate on AMR.
If you are a TPI, non-half-hourly nomination is a great opportunity for you to advise and assist your customers with getting their meter or their estate in a very good place when it comes to AMR. It covers all electricity meters in the country that are used for billing purposes. So anyone, whether business or domestic, with an electricity meter is going through market-wide half-hourly settlement. Energy at the moment is settled in a certain way between the generators, where energy is produced, and the suppliers who buy it off the generators and then sell it on to us as customers, whether you are business or domestic. And the way that is settled is moving to half-hourly settlement. Most of it is half-hourly settled at the moment already, but you have settlement that happens way in arrears. A lot of the energy at the moment for us households and for small businesses is settled 14 months after the event. So it's very late. Those timescales are reducing rapidly to like a 4-month period, and in certain cases 5 to 7 working day period. I think the biggest difference is that we and suppliers, we have to do an awful lot more, and we have to do it a lot faster. So data quality becomes a lot more important, and having a meter up and running that is working, where we can collect data remotely on a daily basis, will be absolutely key. But it's a lot about more and faster, an awful lot more and an awful lot faster.
There's 3 categories of metering. So you've got your smart metering, advanced metering, and unmetered supplies. We're able to cater for all of those areas, but in the advanced, which is our typical bread and butter, if you like, so your DCDA, you've got your ADS. In your MOB, you've got your MOA, so meter operator agent.
I'll just pick it up there from Nina. I think the key is there are 3 elements, as Nina said. Yeah, there is smart, advanced, and unmetered. Now, at Stark, we always like to be in control, and we are going for accreditation in all rules, just as much as we do now. So we'll be able to offer services that you might know now as MOP and DC for all those elements, regardless of whether it's smart, advanced, or unmetered. And we do that with in-house developments. We like to be in control, as I said before, and we are also able to collect data from all meters. Because we do it in-house, we can develop protocols for all meters, so we can collect data remotely. Post-migration, there'll be 3 elements. Yeah, in the smart section, you have all the SMATS meters, and you might have heard that, mainly driven by suppliers to get data and to get metering in situ with households, but also with businesses. And also all traditional meters, they will go into the buckets that we call smart, so SDS, Smart Data Services. All current half-hourly meters and current non-half-hourly AMR meters will move to ADS, which stands for Advanced Data Service. The third bucket is unmetered supplies. Those are meters that currently, well, they're unmetered. Yeah, and it's a little bit strange to talk about that, in all fairness, but it's mainly street lighting, car parks, some public toilets, where there are certain algorithms used to predict when sites use electricity and how much they use in each half hour. And it's as simple as, street lights are not going to be on when it's really sunny or when it's light. They'll be on in the evening when it's dark, between, 7 and 10. And that might be different per council or per highway, but it takes all that information from highways and councils to predict usage per half hour. We would always recommend to a customer to install AMR. And so if you install AMR, it means you as a customer, you choose who will be your meter operator and who will be your data collector. It's in your hands, and you have continuity of data, and it's always working. And what you see is that with SMATS, it's not as interoperable as AMR is. And we believe in being in control, and why would you leave sort of installing SMETS meters to a supplier who in a way are going to use those reads to bill you. It's a little bit like marking your own homework. Yeah, and if it's AMR, it's independent, it's interoperable, you're in control as a customer and you decide. And we think that's very important.
But not only that, with SMETS meters, quality of data is not necessarily always that great. So with our AMR meters, you get your 30-minute interval data on a day+1 basis. With a SMETS meter, we have to get the data from the DCC currently, and you may not get data, day+3 in some instances. So for a customer and a TPI, it's quite important to have data readily available to you.
Well, the risk is a lack of data, or how would you say, it can either be the quality of the data or it can be the frequency of data. And a lot of suppliers, their real emphasis is on one read a month, so they can, instead of giving you an estimated bill, they'd like to give you an accurate bill. But if you are a TPI, and whether that is from a procurement perspective or from any auxiliary services that you might offer, like bill validation, yeah, you want the data today to be able to see what happened yesterday. Yeah, you don't want it in 6 weeks' time, and you don't want just a read, you want it broken down in 48 half hours on a daily basis. And that's just for the services that you as a TPI offer to your customers, whether it's procurement or bill validation or anything else. Now, you might be involved with energy management and trying to reduce carbon or cost with your customers as well. And again, if you have data today regarding what happened yesterday, broken down in 48 half hours, you can work with that. If you get data in 6 weeks and it's only one read, one number, there is not a lot there you can do.